All right, let's look at inferential statistics. Well, everything we've just computed has been about a sample of data. So our regression line A and B, they're about a sample. R is the coefficient of correlation for the sample. R squared is the coefficient of determination for the sample. They all have a corresponding value in the population. For example, the y-intercept is represented by b sub 0, beta sub 0, and beta sub 1 is the population slope, believe it or not, in the regression line. The coefficient of correlation is the Greek letter rho, and the determination is rho squared. And the question we have, do the sample results allow us to conclude that these two variables have a relationship in the population? So we start out with a hypothesis test that there is no relationship between the number of rooms in a house and the number of kilowatt hours of electricity used. Or another way we could say that is that the slope of the regression line is equal to 0. And I'll show you that on the next page. If the slope of the regression line is 0, that means there is no relationship. And of course the alternative would be the slope is not equal to 0. So here's what I mean. If there was no relationship between two values, it would mean as x increases, nothing happens to y. Y stays the same. And this would be a line that b would be equal to 0. And coincidentally, r, the coefficient of correlation, would also be equal to 0. No relationship at all. So if two variables, so the hypothesis test that we're going to do is we're going to start out assuming two variables have no relationship, and then alternative is that they do have a relationship. Now, in the regression module in the analysis tools, if you remember, the number of rooms in the house was the x variable. Here is the slope coefficient, 0.666. And if we keep going to the right, we see a t-statistic of 5.97 and a p-value. Now, if we had a level of significance of 0.05, the p-val being less than 0.05 would mean that we reject the null and accept the alternative. That means that if we reject the null here and conclude that these two variables have a relationship, our chance of making a type 1 error would be much less than 5%. It would be even less than 1%. So our conclusion is that there is a relationship between the number of rooms in a house and the number of kilowatt hours of electricity used.